Hi, welcome back to Therapy Designs. If you're new to this channel, my name is Kelly, and this channel is all about creating print-on-demand designs using Canva. So if that is something that you're interested in, please do stick around. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can create this design right here. There's a lot of steps to it, but it's really cool, and it is perfect for Shark Week, which does start July 7th. So if you would like to learn how to do this style of design, go ahead and stick around. So we are on Canva's homepage here. I am going to be creating a design for a t-shirt. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to custom size. I'm going to select 4500 by 5400 pixels. And that will pull up a blank page. Now for this design, I'm going to go ahead and just start with a black background. And so we are going to be creating a design for Shark Week, but we are going to go ahead and put a photo on top of a kind of splatter grunge frame that we're going to make. So we're going to start with our frame. And so I'm going to go over to Elements, and I can put in splatter, I can put in grunge. There's a lot of different things that we can start with, but let's go ahead. We'll put splatter, and we'll go to graphics, and you can see there's different splatter or grunge textures that work good. So the first thing I'm actually going to do, since I don't want to have to fill in the middle with a bunch of splattered stuff, would just be to go ahead and put R. That's going to be a rectangle. I can make that white, and I can go ahead and blow that up to about whatever general shape I want, and make sure I've got room all the way around it to work with, because I'm going to be putting splatter and grunge around it. So that's just going to give me a solid center point. And then what I could do would be to take things like, I kind of like this one here. It's got a rough edge. And let's go ahead and do it in a different color so I can see what I'm doing. I can take this rough edge and sort of put it right over the edge of my rectangle here. And then I can hit Control D. That's going to duplicate it. And if I was to do something like this, I could go and create a rough edge all the way around my rectangle. I mean, I could also go ahead and, flip so that I'm using different sides of it. So I could get a little bit more texture in this way if I wanted to by doing that. And so I can go all the way around the outside of this square, sort of creating this rough edge look. I can also use just different splatters. So here would be an example of just some splatters. And of course I can do this in a different color so that we can see. At the end, I'm going to go ahead and just make it all one color. But I can shrink that down. Oops. By the way, if you accidentally move something, just go ahead and hit the back button, so we don't have to worry about that. I did it again. Make sure I get my purple thing, and I can do that and create just a little bit of splatter off of the edge too. So if I want to give it a little bit of a, sort of splattered look there, we're just looking at sort of the edge, the border that it's creating around the outside. Try to keep it a relatively easy shape. Here's another example. So here's a grunge background here. I'm going to go ahead and make that one gray too. And I can use that to sort of create a bit of a rough edge there. I can hit Control D to duplicate it. I can turn it and create another somewhat rough edge here. And all it's doing is making it so that the edge is not quite as smooth. Put some splatter, put some rough edges around it. And you're going to do this all the way around the outside, adding different elements, changing them up a little bit so that they're not, looking completely uniform. So you want it to look like it's got sort of this rough edge to it. And so I'm just going to keep doing this, and you'll see it, how it looks when it's kind of all done. And so here you can see what I've done in terms of the edges to create sort of just this jagged edge look by just layering individual little kind of rough edge borders or shapes around it. So I got this jagged edge. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through with some of the splatter here that I showed you before and just put little bits of splatter, and that's just going to kind of give it a little bit of a gradient out. Try to keep the splatter relatively close so you don't want it to go out too far. If you want some sort of a border so that you can definitely see, you can use your rulers and guides. If you don't have the rulers and guides up, if you hit Shift and R, I'm pretty sure it's Shift and R on your keyboard, that should pull up your rulers and guides, and then you can pull a line down, and let's say I want it to be able to come out that much. So it's giving me a line where I want to keep my grunge stuff too. It's also going to help me to keep it at a pretty uniform shape so that I don't go and create, you know, some weird shape if I want to keep it relatively square or rectangle. So the rulers and guides can help there, just to sort of see where you're going to put things. So I can make that, oops, having trouble grabbing my splatter. Oh, well, I'll get a new splatter. So let's go with this splatter here. That'll work better. And so I can see it, I'm going to go ahead and just switch it to any other color. That's going to help me to see my splatter. Like I said, I want to keep it relatively small and within this sort of edge here. So what I'm doing is just trying to see if I can get some even little itty bitty dots outside the edge here. And so I can hit Control D, and start kind of rotating it to get a little bit of splatter right outside the edge. And so it's just, oops, gonna create some little dots. Okay, so now I've gone ahead and just put some like splatter dots around the edge. And so this is all different colors just so that you could see what I did. I'm going to go ahead and make this all one color now so that you can see what the frame itself would look like. So if I was to just click on one of these and go ahead and say I'm going to make all of these white, I can click on white. At the bottom here it will say change all, so it's going to change all of that purple to white. And then I'm going to do the same with the gray. I'm just going to go ahead and pick white, and I'm going to change all of the gray to white. And now what you can see is I've got this sort of splatter frame. And so what it does is it's just going to give a rough edge. And the reason I do that is if you were to just put a square or a rectangle on a shirt, it looks kind of bad. Like, it looks kind of bad to just have just this square or this rectangle right in the middle of a shirt. But when you give it a little bit of a rough edge, it no longer just looks like this square. It gives this cool, like the splatter look, and the rough edges kind of help. It still has a nice solid middle so that whatever image you put here is going to look good, but I'm giving it a little bit more of a rougher edge. And so I think that that tends to look pretty good. The cool thing about this is once you've made your frame, you can use this frame over and over and over and over and over again, hundreds of times for all sorts of different things. So once you have a frame that you like, you can just keep using it. And so that is the cool thing. And about making your own frame, it means nobody else is going to have the same one. There would be absolutely no way for you to duplicate this frame exactly because there are so many just overlapping elements that gave it that sort of grunge edge look. And so you'll have your own unique frame that you can then use again for, all sorts of different designs going forward. And so I really like that. And of course you can do them in different shapes too. I made this one a little bit more on the square side. I do have some that are a little bit more rectangular to fill the page, though it is a little bit harder if you're getting photos to keep everything important inside of a longer rectangle, because a lot of photos tend to be a little bit more horizontal. So if you go a little bit more square, it's a little bit easier to get the photos to fit nicely versus a really long rectangle. But again, you could do this in any kind of shape you wanted to shoot. You could even do this in like a grunge heart or a grunge triangle or a grunge whatever. So, or you could just totally make it, some sort of a really odd shape. So this works good for photos because I can usually get everything I want inside of it. So it helps me out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put grunge. I'm going to call this more square frame. and that way I can use it in the future. And then I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to go to share, I'm going to go to download. It's going to be a transparent background. It's a PNG, and I'm going to download that. And so now I've got my frame. By the way, once you have your frame and you don't want to move anything, we can take all of these many graphics and group them together by clicking anywhere outside the frame, like in the bottom corner or whatnot. So if you click, right, and then hold down, so you're left clicking, holding down, and you're going to drag over everything. Once you've dragged over everything, you can click group, and now this is one grouped frame. Now you could go ahead and move it all over the frame, all over the page now if you wanted to, but don't, because I'm going to use this frame to put pictures over, and I want to know exactly where the frame sits in the page, so that when I line my pictures up, they line up perfectly in the frame. So don't go moving your frame or resizing it or changing it just yet. You kind of want it to match the frame that you just downloaded. So for this design, I wanted to do a Shark Week design. So Shark Week is coming up. It is for 2024. It is starting July 7th, I think. Yes, Shark Week is starting July 7th for 2024. And so it is popular every year in July. There is Shark Week. Now you do have to be careful when you're making your Shark Week designs, because you can't have anything that says Shark Week. That would be trademarked, and so you can't do that. But you can put up all sorts of different just shark t-shirt designs that can look really cool, and they can have words or they can not have words. And they can be photos or they can be graphics, but Shark Week is a big week. And of course, sharks, that's just a good evergreen niche anyways. So anybody who likes sharks, you know, can get a shark shirt any time of year. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a photo design, and we're going to put the shark photo now into the frame. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a search for sharks or shark. And it'll take a second to load. Now, right now it is on graphics. Let's go ahead and search for photos. And you can see there's all sorts of cool photos. And so we can select any of these photos. We can do multiple ones too, so you don't have to just pick one photo. But you can go through and look for any shark photos that you think might look good. And then what we'll do is we'll see if we can get it to fit nicely in this page. And so there's all sorts of ones. So for example, let's say I wanted to take this hammerhead shark. And I have to blow it up so that it's going to completely cover my splatter. And to see where it's going to fit in the page, what you would then do would be go to the top where you've got this little checkered thing. It says transparency if you hover over it. If you click on that, you're going to bring the transparency of the photo down. Now that I have the transparency of the photo down, I can go ahead and, you know, line this up in my frame however I want. So here I can see where the shark would line up. So if I wanted to do this design, I can see through it exactly how that shark would look. So if I wanted to do a hammerhead design, there you go. By the way, cool hammerhead thing just says nailed it, and I've seen a lot of those too. So if you wanted to do the hammerhead and the nailed it, you could definitely put text over the top of this and that would work. And so that is one option there. And so what you can do is start looking at different options that you like. I kind of like some of those too there, by the way. And again, you can just start pulling them up the way that I just did so that you can see them kind of getting pulled up. And that's pretty cool. Lots of different ones. And then we can go to our recently used once we've got a good list of images and see what kind of looks the best. So right now I'm just sort of going through some of these and seeing what looks cool. There's actually quite a few hammerheads that kind of look cool. Quite a few great whites that look cool. So all sorts of different designs here that you could go with. I do want something that's going to be, you know, relatively sharp. I don't want anything that's going to be too, you know, too blurry or out of focus. Sometimes it's hard to get things perfectly in focus, especially when you're in the water. I'm also looking for something that's going to be a little bit cool perspective. I really want it to come across and read perfectly as shark. So when I'm looking at these, I want to make sure that I'm selecting something that is going to work well for my design. And so I'm just coming down and seeing what my options are and just selecting a bunch of them. And then we will go over to our recently used once we've selected a lot and go ahead and pick some of these out. So once you feel like you've got enough images to look through, you can go ahead and close this down, and then you can go to recently used and hit see all. And so now I've gotten some of the ones that I thought might look the best, and so with these I can then go ahead and play with them just the way I showed you before and see what I think would look best. Now you don't necessarily have to pick just one. You can make a lot of versions of this, so if you want to, look at several, you definitely can. Looking at like this hammerhead right here, if I wanted to do that nice hammerhead design, I can see which of these I think is going to kind of work well. So fitting that in right there, I can make that hammerhead fit in there pretty nicely. So for example, if I want to download this one just so I can see, I can do that. I've got it fitting where I want. At this point, I still might want to adjust it so it's pretty flat right now and it's pretty dark. So I can go over to edit image and go to adjust and bring that brightness up a little bit there so that I can see it a little bit better. And so that might look better. I can also bump up that saturation. That might make it look a little bit better too, so that I can actually sort of see it. And so now that picture is looking a little bit nicer in terms of printing. And so I can go ahead here, and what I would actually do is probably just duplicate this page. So if I get a little plus here, it says duplicate. This way I can move that out. I can keep this as my frame, and I can just title this frame really quick. And that way I can title these separately. So this would be hammerhead. And I could put hammerhead 1 because I might have different ones, or hammerhead mask. And what I'm going to do here is go to share. I'm going to download this, okay? It does not need to be a transparent background, but it is going to be a PNG, and then you are going to have to select your page, which is just going to be page 2, and we're going to hit done, and we're going to download that. And so now that will be our mask. Now we can do a few of these too, just so that you can see the different versions. So we'll do that one. Maybe we'll do one of the great whites, just so that you can see a variation. A lot of people do great whites, so it's always a good idea to get a variety of different different animals, so you don't have to just do great whites. You can do the hammerheads or the lemon sharks or any of the other ones. I do kind of like some of the great whites jumping out of the water though, because you always get a lot of in-water pictures, but some of those coming out of the water pictures might look really nice too. So a lot of different ones that could look cool. Here's another hammerhead that we could do. It's going to cut the body off a little bit if we do it this one. So again, you always want to look to see how it's going to line up. So if I, make it fit, I'm just going to get the hammerhead part, but I'm not going to get the rest of the shark. So it just depends, how you want to crop it. I do like this one or this one. So let's see. This one's really cool because it's just got this shark jumping way out of the water. I'm going to crop this down so that it's just easier to work with. I'm going to blow this sucker up. I mean, this one looks really cool. Let's see how that was going to fit. So remember, I have to have it come up enough to get all those splatter edges, which is why I tried to keep the splatter pretty close to the main frame, because I'm going to lose part of the fin here. But if I bring that fin down, I'm going to have splatter that doesn't have anything on it. And so we want to keep it pretty close there. That actually looks pretty good. I mean, I can zoom in even more if I want to try to frame that better. And so something like that with the shark jumping out of the water might be a really cool one there. And so let's go ahead and do that one and see how that one looks. So I'm going to go ahead and title this one then jumping, or shark jumping. Shark jumping mask, just whatever you need to title it so that you know which one it is. And again, we can download and we just want page 2. And let's do one more. I'm going to do the other great white as well. I'm going to drag this one out of the way, and we're going to do one more. Let's see how this one looks. This one, it's got some sort of prey in its mouth. I'm not sure what it's eating. Is that a fish or a... I don't know. Let's go ahead and see. So I might shrink it down a little bit so that I can get it all to sort of fit exactly as I want. So that looks pretty cool there. Get rid of the transparency. And we're going to go ahead and download this one too. So I've got 3 different versions to work with. And this is, well, you know what? I need to title this, let's say, Shark Jumping Mask 2, because this is a second one. Now we can download it as is. We're just going to download page 2, hit download. Okay, and then we can get rid of that. And so from here, what we're actually going to do is we're going to jump over to Photopea. So if you haven't used it before, all you have to do is type photopea.com into your browser, and it will pull up a page that looks like this. So this is photopea.com. You don't have to log in. You don't have to create an account. It doesn't cost any money. It's super easy. All you got to do is hit this middle button that says Open from Computer. That will pull up your downloads. And from there, what you're going to do is select your frame. So you're going to be looking for your grunge square frame and click Open. And it will open up a page just like this, and it's got your grunge frame on it, hopefully. And so from here, what we're going to do is go over to the top. All the way on the left-hand side, it says File. If you click that, 3 spaces down, you'll see one that says Open in Place. So you're going to click Open in Place. That will pull up your downloads again, and now we can go ahead and pick some of those sharks. So go over to your downloads and just go ahead and look for whichever shark you want to start with. So this has pulled up my hammerhead shark design. So here is my hammerhead, and you can see the layers here. The hammerhead is on top of the background, which is still back there, and it is the one that's highlighted. And so this is what the page should look like. And then from here, what we can do is go to the top. And again, we're going to move over now to where it says Layer. Click on that. And about halfway down, you'll see something that says Clipping Mask. And you can click there, and it should put your image right inside of your clipping mask. And so now you can see what that looks like there. And you got it all with the cool grunge look. So now what we're going to do is we're going to export this. So we're going to go ahead and go to File. And we are going to export as a PNG. It'll pull up a little box that looks like this. Here's where you can rename it if you want to. So I'm going to go just Hammerhead Splatter. You can pick the quality. I usually keep it somewhere between 90 and 100. If it's a really large image and you have it at 100%, it may not fit back in Canva. If that's the case, you just have to come and re-download it again at a slightly lower quality, just to make sure it fits. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit save here. And just to show you, we're going to jump right back over to Canva. So I'm back on Canva. I've got my splatter frame here, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. And let's go ahead now. We'll go over to our uploads, and we're going to upload that design we just made on Photopea. And once you have it uploaded, you can just drag it over to your page here. I can kind of crop it down so that it's easy to use. I can resize it and put it in the page anywhere I like. So I'm going to make it now nice and big. You don't want to cut off any of your splatter, but you do want your splatter, you know, to go mostly edge to edge, just like that. So there is my cool hammerhead one right here. Now I'm going to repeat the process with the other ones just so you can see. So we'll jump right back over to Photopea. Now you don't have to delete anything. We can still work from this. So all you got to do is go back up to File again. You're going to go to Open in Place. It'll pull up your downloads, and now you can pick your next mask. So we did the hammerhead. So now let's go ahead and we will do the shark jumping mask. And there we have it. There is our shark jumping. Again, it is the one on top, and it is the one that's highlighted. So everything else is underneath it over on the right where you see the layers. So from here, we can go back to the top, hit Layer, hit Clipping Mask, and it will again put the shark right inside the clipping mask. And then we can repeat the process of downloading it. We can hit Edit, Export As, hit PNG. And we can retitle it here if we want to. We'll go with shark jumping, grunge, or whatever we like, grunge splatter. And I can do it one more time. I can go over to File, go to Open in Place, and let's go ahead and get our third mask here, which was, again, our shark jumping 2. And boom, there is our last shark jumping. And again, it is at the top and all the other layers are below it. So we can go over to Layer. Halfway down is Clipping Mask. And boom, there is our third shark. And so again, File, Export as PNG, retitle it here. I'm going to go with Shark Eating Grunge and hit Save. Perfect. And that's all we need Photopea for. So from this point, you can go ahead if you want to and just get rid of your Photopea and just jump right back over to Canva. And let's go ahead over to the left-hand side to the Uploads tab, and we'll upload the 2 that we just made. So once you've uploaded those, I went ahead and just added a couple more pages. So I have one on each page here so that we can see. So again, I can kind of crop it down, reframe it, resize it, put it where I want it. So something like that for that one, and then do the same one here. And I'm just going to crop it down and bring it up, make it nice and big. So now that we're here, we can still play with photo effects if we want to. So let's say, I mean, we did the photo effects on this one. Let's say I wanted to do the same general idea on here. I could go edit image. We could adjust from here. So again, I could make it a little bit brighter if I wanted to. I could bring out some of the whites. I could bring out some of the blacks or the shadows, so I could add some contrast. I can pump up that saturation a bit, which I think would be really cool. And so that already makes it look a lot brighter. And so that's something we can do. And I can do that again with this one, which also looks kind of flat. Would be to edit the image, go to adjust. It definitely needs to be a little bit brighter. We can pump the contrast up a little if we want to. Saturation is another one that we could do just to make it pop a little bit more. This one's going to be a little bit messy because we've got all the, all the water that's in front of the shark. So it's not going to be super sharp because of all that water. So this might not be the best one. I do like this one because it's got a little bit more color to it. And I like this one. It's got the shark that's swimming. One other thing that we can do that I think is cool sometimes is to separate essentially the shark from the background. So if you've got a clean version like this where the shark is kind of separate from the background, here's what you can do that's really cool. We're going to take this, I'm going to hit Control D and duplicate it. And I'm going to go ahead and put one right over the other. And I'm going to take this top one, I'm going to go to Edit Image, and we're going to go ahead and do a background remover. Now, if this worked, you probably can't tell because what we would have is the shark with the background remover right over the photo that had the shark. If you want to see, you can go to background remover, hit these 3 little lines, and we can see how it cut it out. So yeah, we've got this shark completely separate now from the background. So now what I could do if I wanted to would be, oops, I'm gonna crop that down just so I can grab hold of the shark in the background separately, would be to edit the background or the shark separately. So let's say I wanted to take this background now and edit image of just the backgrounds. I could do all sorts of cool things with it. So I could change, the background here without it affecting the shark. So you can see how I can make that different vividness. I can make it kind of black and whitish. One really cool thing I could do if I wanted it to look trippy would be one of these weird like color pop things. And of course I could do this the other way around too, where I say I'm going to leave the background alone. I'm going to take just the shark and I'm going to do the same thing. And maybe I'm just going to do a color pop weird thing on the shark. And so you can see how you could play there and do some pretty, cool things with the shark. And so, of course, you can play as much as you want and do things to make the shark look cool. This really only looks good typically if I'm going to separate it either by making like one of them colored and one of them black and white. Sharks aren't very colorful, so it's not like I would make the shark colored in the back black and white, because then it would probably just look black and white because the shark's black and white already. I'd probably then go ahead and just pump the background and make the background a little bit brighter, unless I wanted to do something really cool like the color pop, because if I do this, obviously it's definitely different, and then I could make the background different, and you know, so I could play with the shark that way. But actually right now I'd probably go ahead and just leave that shark alone, because the shark kind of looks cool as it is. And I'd actually probably play more with the background in terms of making the background a little bit brighter. Something, you know, you can play with the different backgrounds that kind of look cool. Or I could do something like that where I'm making just a totally separate background kind of a color. So there's your hibiscus, X Pro Plus, something like that, where it's obvious that I've done something to the background, but I haven't done something to the shark. And those are just other things that you can do that just kind of make it look a little bit, you know, different, so to speak. So anyways, I kind of like that. I also probably like to go over to adjust, maybe pump that saturation up a bit for the background. Make myself a nice saturated background there, so that looks kind of cool. I mean, and so that works. And then if I wanted to go ahead and put a text on here, you know, like I said, I could put nailed it. Nailed it. Boom. And so I could do this, I could make it something, you know, I want it to be pretty big and bold if I'm going to do something like that. Here's a good nailed it. And if I really wanted to, I mean, I could use some transparency on this too, so that you could almost see through it. So it says nailed it. I could put it anywhere I want. You're not going to see it as much there. I mean, I could put it right over the shark. I kind of like it down here. I can play with just how much transparency or how little transparency. So I can make it so that it's really kind of faded, very hard to see, or I could make it so it pops out a lot more so you can see it a lot more. So something like that looks pretty cool. And so those are just ways that you can play with this. You've got your own design, and of course, I did it with sharks. You can put anything you want in this frame. Now that you have this frame, you know, there's no limitation to what you can do, and you can see how you can separate things from the background. This would be hard to separate from the background because I think that the splatter is going to make it hard for them to see where the background is. Because there's not just clean lines because of the water. Same thing with this one. But this one lent itself really well to separating the shark from the background. And again, the shark being pretty much black and white, you're not going to be able to do a lot of cool color stuff with it. But you can do this with other images where you've got a color image and then you make the background black and white and the foreground color, or vice versa, and really make it pop that way. And so that's another cool thing that you can do that I think looks pretty awesome when it's done right. I might even take this shark here. I want to pump up the whites on him a little bit. Where are my whites? That way. Just pump up the whites on the shark. Might pump up the blacks on him too. Boom. I like that. Cool. So that looks pretty sharp. So now I would go ahead and just retitle this whole page right here. I can put nailed it, splatter, shark, however I want to title that. And then I'm going to go ahead, share, download. This will be a transparent background. I'm going to go ahead, select just this page and download that, and now it is ready to go on anything. So again, this could go on a shirt, it could go on a tote bag, I mean, it could go on a sweatshirt, it could go on a mug, it could go on just about anything that you want it to go on, and it can go on a lot of different products. So that is pretty cool. Might even look good on like a coaster or something because it's square, so any kind of square product might look cool. But that is definitely something that could work well for Shark Week, but would also be a good evergreen year-round because, again, sharks are year-round. If you have any questions about this, drop it in the comment section below. I try to get back to everybody as quickly as I can. I know it was a somewhat long video, so thank you for hanging in there, and I do hope to see you guys again. That's it for today's video. If you found that useful and would like to see more videos with helpful tips and tricks, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of the weekly videos. As always, keep growing and stay creative, and we'll see you next time.